Hi team, welcome back to the OIA YouTube channel. Today I want to take a look at some really cool things we've been doing with our workflow platform called WorkflowGen. We've been working with some customers on some solutions like contracts management, where there's some labor intensive and some repetitive tasks like creating documents and also the document signing process that we've managed to either automate or digitize in order to make the whole process of working with the document and getting it signed fully contained within the workflow process. So what that's all about is, first of all, document assembly, and secondly, digital signing. And so what the demonstration today is going to show you is how we've integrated both of those things into a workflow process. So let's take a look. Before we look at the demo, I just want to describe to you what you're going to be seeing and which parts or phases of the workflow are going to include which elements of our integrations. So the first thing we're going to do is the request form. So this is where WorkflowGen comes in. A workflow request is started, the process is initiated, and this can be initiated either by a manual user, a back-end process, or an external system can kick off a workflow via the WorkflowGen API. The next thing we do is we go to an external data source, be it a web service or a database, and we gather further information based on what we've collected from the end user. Then we can take that data that we've collected from the data sources and use some kind of application automation to go ahead and assemble that document. So in this case, we're just using Microsoft Word and some dynamic fields which will be populated from data that we've collected as part of the workflow. And lastly, it's going to be sent off on a digital signing process. We're using WorkflowGen's out-of-the-box DocuSign integration, which allows us to take the document we've just created, send it out for a DocuSign process, and then bring it back into our internal systems. So now it's time for the demo. So the demo today, it's an employee exit process. And on the main form here, you can see the workflow user can enter the employee code and then hit that retrieve employee information button, and the workflow process is going to go out and gather all the information we know about that employee from our external data source and pre-populate the form. Lots of time savings there. The end user can also go ahead and enter some other information like dates, which are particular to this particular process. Select some types from some drop-down fields and the HR manager from a drop-down field, and there it's going to pre-populate some other fields based on what we already know about that particular person, and then submit that workflow. Then brings us to the document generation step of this workflow. Hit the refresh button there, you can see the status is completed, so that means the document's been generated. If we go back to the form, you can see the actual document that's been created itself has been added as a link into the form. If we click on that and open it, we can see the document. You can see the areas where that information that was created or put into the form has been pushed into the various dynamic fields in that Word document. So down there, that's the HR manager has been added. We move on to the step where HR validates generated documents. So in their form, you can see that completed document has been added as a link. The user can have a look at those documents. They can download them, they can view them. If they've been saved to a document management system like iManageWork, they'll be available. Once they're happy with the way those forms look, they can select to proceed. In this particular case, the workflow is set up to use a password before moving on. You can see in this graphical follow-up for the waiting for DocuSign completion step that the document has been sent out to the DocuSign process, and the DocuSign envelope has been routed for signing by signatories based on information in the workflow form. You can see here's the email that would have been received by the signatory for this particular workflow. And this is all the DocuSign process. So the DocuSign emails and the DocuSign landing pages can all be customized to the look and feel that you guys want for your branding or your business. But you can see here, this is the document that was assembled at the very beginning of our workflow. The document signing location has been entered into the correct location in the document, and the signatory here has completed that signing process. So now that signing process is finished, the workflow system is going to accept that signed document back into the workflow process. So by hitting refresh, you can see that waiting for DocuSign completion step has completed. And we're now into the state where we're going to finalize that workflow process now that the document's actually been signed. Just as an example, you can see here is the signed copy of that document. The DocuSign signed copy of that document has been saved back into this workflow. So this request now has a full copy of that. At this point, we're at the end of the HR exit process. In this case, the end user has the opportunity to attach some additional files. So perhaps some information has been collected from another party, or you've actually got a countersigned version of the documents that need to be uploaded into this particular workflow request. The user can select some options, add some comments, and then again, in this case, the workflow is locked down, so a password needs to be entered to make sure they're 100% happy that that workflow is completed, and they hit the submit button, and that workflow request is going to be wrapped up, and any notifications that are relevant to that are going to be sent out to all of the parties, and a full record of the entire process and all of the documents that were created and signed as part of that process are now saved within the workflow platform. So just to recap on what we've seen in the demo, there was a WorkflowGen request that started off. Some data was entered into that WorkflowGen request. And at that stage, that information was used to go and find some other information from an external data source. So we extracted some information about an employee from another data source. That information was both put into the request form and also used to do some document assembly. So we used that information using application automation and created a brand new Word document with all of the dynamic fields populated based on the information in the workflow request. That assembled document was then sent out for a DocuSign process. The DocuSign process was initiated using the out-of-the-box DocuSign integration for WorkflowGen, which means that the process was able to create a DocuSign envelope, assign the signatory based on information in the workflow request, and also put the document signing block in the right spot. Then, once that DocuSign process was completed, the document was saved back into the WorkflowGen request. The request was completed, and all of the documents that were created and signed and a full trail of everything that occurred on that workflow was then saved back into the workflow platform. Now don't forget, OEA is your full stack technology partner. What this means is that we've got an extremely deep experience set in the information management area. So that's where we can help you with your digital transformation journey. Document management, records management, digital signing, workflow, that kind of thing. But what's become such an integral part of the digital transformation effort is all of those integration points where we have with other cloud platforms and other Microsoft platforms, such as Microsoft 365, Azure AD and Azure SSO, and of course those essential Microsoft platforms like Teams, Power Automate, antivirus, and data loss prevention. So there you have it. That's what we've been doing with the document assembly and digital signing processes fully integrated with our WorkflowGen workflow solution. If you'd like to know any more information about that, please get in contact with us. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the OEA's YouTube channel so you can see what else we've got in store for you. See you later.